want to welcome you all to All Souls. My name is Reverend Pamela Patton, and it's my honor to lead this memorial for Jeffrey Kvaal, who was a beloved friend, colleague, son, brother, uncle, husband, and father. We have gathered here on this late summer afternoon to be part of a service of love and of remembrance for Jeff. We gather, all of us, to try in some way to make peace with ourselves as we acknowledge this death that has come to pass. Jeff grew up in a Unitarian Universalist church in Massachusetts, and then he came and attended this church in New York City because he was committed to the values of this denomination, values which all of you witnessed and appreciated in him. All Souls is a sanctuary for spiritual seekers, a place for people who have set aside the ancient doctrines and dogmas of established religion, but who realize that going it alone isn't the answer either. Especially in times like right now, when the tragedies and travesties of life break through the routines of our lives and force us to confront difficult realities and ask difficult questions. We need people around us. We need a circle of connection and compassion. So that's what we do here in this sanctuary week to week. We support each other in the journey through life. And that's what we are going to do today as we celebrate Jeff's life. Our services here always begin with a chalice lighting, and Caroline and Cecilia, Jeff's nieces, will light our chalice today.
We light this flame as our fervent plea to brighten the dark corners of our hearts.
We kindle this light
that we might continue to find comfort in its warmth and strength in its light.
We follow this light
that it might illuminate our search for purpose and for meaning.
We light this chalice,
knowing even as the sacred spark of life is extinguished, in ensuing darkness, its light, Jeff's light, will still burn bright with all the memory and hope he wished for us.
We light this flame of life, of love and truth for the divine promises of healing hearts.
As you all know, Jeff drew a full measure of life and exhorted others to do the same. His death leaves us with something unique in our lives missing. We've lost a life whose place in our hearts was secure. And we know that we must accept the death of those we love, and we know that death will sometime, maybe sooner or maybe later, come to us as well. But in these moments, we find it hard to imagine this extraordinary life put away, and neither our words nor Jeff's uncharacteristic silence will reconcile us soon to it. So our work today is threefold. First, we have come here to appreciate more fully the many facets of Jeff's remarkable life, and we will hear from friends and family many reflections about it, about him. We will also measure our own lives by the standards of enthusiasm and of engagement that Jeff had set for us. And third, we will commit ourselves to carrying out his legacy. His devoted companionship and his kindness will live on only as it lives on through us. In the face of death, we have come here to recommit ourselves to the ideals and virtues he demonstrated that can never die. Please join me in the spirit of meditation and prayer. Spirit of life, we pause in this holy hour to express our gratitude for life's many gifts and for the opportunity to have had to share our lives with this loving, kind, compassionate, energetic, loving man. In this time of grief, let any feelings of guilt, any memories of cross words said or tender things left unsaid be forgiven, as Jeff would forgive us now. Let the memories of times of health and happiness and joy remain in our hearts and grow, and let us take comfort in remembering the good and true and beautiful things in this life which has come to an end. May we have in these moments a profound awareness of our need for one another. Make our compassion deeper, our sympathy wider. Let our sorrow teach us to be gentle. Let our grief and gratitude be freely spoken among us. And may the peace into which Jeff has entered be in our hearts as we remember him this day and in all the days to come. In the name of all who have been true and faithful in spirit, we pray.
Andrew and I wanted to say thank you for being here today. It is wonderful to see so many people who knew Jeff in different ways and at different times. And we have all seen a different side of Jeff. For me, Jeff was Mr. Dependable. That's the senior superlative he earned in high school. And in school, he was good at almost everything. 4.0 GPA, captain of the basketball team, leader of the student government. He made anything seem possible for Andrew and me. The only time I remember him struggling was in learning the trombone. Jeff would get up before sunrise to practice before school basketball and college applications, and never did get that good at it, but he kept getting up. Anyway, Jeff didn't see himself in terms of his many accomplishments. He prioritized his relationships. After a long day with young kids at the beach, he was always the one who was up for a nightcap. We travel to meet at Red Sox games. Once he took Thomas to Philadelphia to join me for a soccer game. We only had 2 tickets, which were originally meant for Thomas and Jeff, but he decided to wait at the Amtrak station so that I could spend time with my nephew. When Stephanie joined our family, Jeff welcomed her with genuine enthusiasm and curiosity. My family says they knew she was the one after she talked me into getting up early to go dig for clams. Jeff came too. When Joseph was born, Jeff would play with him on the floor and lift him up to touch the ceiling. Joseph still talks about the height of animals in terms of how many Uncle Jeff's tall they are. Jeff also prioritized the close friends he made and kept at every stage of his life. Going out for drinks with Jeff usually meant meeting a bunch of his friends too. But he was most proud of his family, and Jane was the person he depended on for 36 years. And their patience and guidance for Thomas and Lily have made Jeff and Jane parenting role models for Stephanie and me. When the cancer came, Jeff never gave up fighting. He never complained, and he never expressed bitterness. To me, that was one more way he put the rest of us first. He was supporting us instead of burdening us. That's Jeff. You never had to wonder if he would show up. He was a pillar. That's why so many of us are here. He showed up for us. So maybe now we can each take a little bit of that weight. Let's try to get up early and stay up late to meet others where they are and to open up new doors for our loved ones. There's only going to be one Mr. Dependable, but maybe we can be a whole crowd of mini dependables. I think he would have liked that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jeff's brother, Andrew. Jeff was a big brother straight from Central Casting. We were 3, close in age, and our childhood was spent in large chunks together. There were hours shooting hoops in the driveway, competing to see who could walk furthest on stilts, epic wiffle ball games, and gin rummy. Even as a kid, Jeff knew that his role was different. He was older, bigger, smarter, all around better. He didn't take it easy on James and me. He was competitive too, but he also understood that he had a responsibility. And so most often, he lived up to that. He was inclusive, he was fair, he looked out for us. Jeff knew that being a big brother involved being a role model, something that he cultivated deliberately and took seriously. In high school, he was everywhere. He had great grades, played basketball, active in student government, and so much more. With that breadth, he built friendships across the social spectrum. School faculty picked him for the award given to one student who most exemplifies the qualities of service, academic excellence, athletics, and importantly, the goodwill of his fellow students. That's who Jeff was. Those childhood character traits never eroded, and I'm sure that those of you who knew him later in life recognized the threads of intelligence, commitment to hard and diligent work, and most importantly, humility and compassion. As we got older, he never stopped being that big brother to us. In our family life, he was a fierce protector of tradition, the organizer, and usually the photographer. He made sure things happened. He made sure we stayed connected. He was generous with his time and with his mind. I suspect that when you reflect on your own relationship with Jeff, you'll find that he was, in a sense, a big brother to you as well. He organized your events. He enthusiastically celebrated your wins like they were his own. He set an example you admired. Of course, the greatest expression of Jeff is his family. Jane, I've known you since I was 16, and I've watched your 35 years together, give or take. There is no purer love story than what you shared. Thomas and Lily, you are his crowning achievement. He cherished you with every minute. He was so proud of what you've accomplished, and especially who you have become as adults. His echoes are strong in both of you. This is a sad time, a very sad day. Jeff, too, was sad. The last time I saw him, a week before he passed, he expressed this directly. He fought with every fiber for more time to spend with us. So I know if he were here today, he'd lean into the feelings that permeate this room. It's difficult to find meaning in this sadness and in his passing, but a clue comes from something that he said in July. Our family has a 50-year tradition of being together for a week in the summer. This year's visit was poignant, knowing it would be our last intact as a family of 5, and now a family of 13. At the end, we each shared what had been special, and there were great memories. Jeff went last and, true to form, reframed it. He told us that he saw a family full of love, one that looked out for one another and could weather what was to come. I think he was acting like a big brother in that moment, making sure we were together and showing us how to succeed. And I think that was universal advice that applies to all of us. So today, we can be sad together, but let's reflect and share our individual stories of how Jeff made our lives indelibly better, richer, fuller. Let's show the love we have for Jeff to Jane and Thomas and Lily, and also to each other and the people we hold close in our lives. And tomorrow, I hope we keep Jeff's example in mind as he would have done.
Hey, everyone. I'm Jackie, and I'm here with Jeff and Timur. Timur wins the prize for having traveled the farthest to be here. He's here all the way from Pakistan. And we are representing Cluster H. I'll explain to you what that is. So we had the good fortune, along with Jeff, of being members of Cluster H. That was our first year cohort at Columbia Business School. And nearly 30 years later, this group remains exceptionally close. There are a bunch of other members, both original members and also adjacent members that are here today. Jeff was a pillar of Cluster H. In a group of 60 randomly assigned individuals, he became everyone's friend. As one of our cluster mates expressed, Jeff was really the life of the party for Cluster H. In class, in the library, in our escapades around the city. He kept us laughing, but also he was great at listening when you needed a friend. After graduation, he took on an administrative role, volunteer. He became the administrator of our WhatsApp group, and he has been a constant at our informal reunions in New York for the last 30 years.
Hello, I'm Timur. I met JK. I met JK during our business school orientation, and we discovered we lived across the hall from each other. After a few weeks, one of JK's roommates moved out, and I moved in. JK used to cook his famous chili for the two of us, and every Sunday we would have friends over, order in Chinese, and watch Simpsons and the X-Files. I left New York in 2001 and went back home to Pakistan. For the last 15 years, I've always started planning my annual trip to New York with a message to JK to make sure he would be in town. We would have a Cluster H night, and in addition, I would have coffee or lunch with JK, and then dinner with him, Jane, Lily, and Thomas. I'll miss his WhatsApp messages during basketball and football season, especially when the Pats and Celtics were winning. JK had a way to make my life feel a little brighter and a lot more meaningful just by being in it.
While I too was classmates with Jeff at Columbia, the foundation of my friendship with him came from playing basketball together in countless recreational leagues in the decades after business school. Now, I'm certain Jeff would want me to regale you all with heroic stories of his sweet 15-footer or his savage rebounding, but I'm not going to give him that today. Much more importantly, just as Jeff was the cornerstone of our cluster, he was also the mainstay of our every basketball team. Jeff always took the time to get to know each new player and establish a connection with him. To use a sports term Jeff himself was wont to say, Jeff was our glue guy. He brought a sense of community to our teams. He made guys want to come back each season. He's why it wasn't uncommon to have guys play with us for 10 years or more. But Jeff wasn't perfect. He had this insufferable habit of rubbing in the dominance of his beloved Boston teams. This last NBA playoff season, he and I were looking forward to a potential matchup of his Celtics against my Knicks. And the trash talking had begun in earnest. We planned to watch some games together, and he warned me that he'd be wearing his lucky Celtics socks. I imagined it included leprechauns or shamrocks or some other such Gaelic nonsense. Sadly, his health failed to advance, and in those weeks, Jeff's health was in serious decline. But he insisted we still watch the Knicks in the finals together. And despite being visibly weak, he soldiered down to my place in Lower Manhattan. Upon arriving, he pulled his jeans up to reveal blue and orange, his makeshift pair of lucky Knicks socks, in solidarity with me. It's like he was saying, I've had my 7 championships. I'll grant you this one. So in the midst of his visible suffering, Jeff still wanted to support his teammate, even if it meant wearing blue and orange.
Here's something Jeff texted me in the last few months when his health was already in decline. I had thanked him for rallying to come out to a somewhat strenuous Cluster H gathering. Here's what he said, and I can hear he texted this, but I can really hear him saying this. He said, "These are the things to live for, Jackie. I had a doctor briefly who was trying to tell me to do all the things on my bucket list. Switch it up, live life for myself. And I was like, nope, my life is great just the way it is. All I want is to be able to see my friends and family and be there when wonderful things like this gathering happen." Jeff's parting gift to all of us was the stunning courage and strength that he showed during these last months. He will always remain the heart of Cluster H, the mainstay of our team, and our forever glue guy. We will miss him immeasurably.
Hello, my name is Tim Luke, and Jane has asked me to speak today about our dear friend Jeff's adventures in his professional life. And I do so having had the honor of partnering with Jeff across his different roles for almost 30 years. On reflection, I always feel that one of the funniest things about our relationship was that it was definitely not love at first sight. At our initial encounter, Jeff was a heavily recruited star MBA student, as you've just heard, at the prestigious Columbia University. He already had an Ivy League engineering degree from Brown and an accomplished background in management consulting. I, at the time, was a somewhat struggling equity research analyst at Lehman Brothers on Wall Street and was seeking an associate to partner with. Jeff reported on our interview that I had lacked structure. I, on the other hand, suggested that the measured and principled Bostonian might not enjoy the somewhat crazed sales culture of the as yet unregulated sell side in the days before Governor Eliot Spitzer and his fierce crackdown. Anyway, a second meeting was hastily arranged by our legendary research director, who insisted that together we could be a great team. And Jeffrey and I were both so incredibly lucky that he was right. Jeff's impact was immediate. He arrived from his MBA in May of 1999, and by September, we went from nowhere to be voted the number 3 ranked team in the nation for this wireless technology equity research. By the following year, we were the number 1 ranked team, and so it remained for some time. Jeff, always the brains and the rigor, dominating the analysis, so tireless in his energy and his drive, but Jeff was always balanced in his views and always had his witty, positive attitude. And as a former engineer, he was always in danger of actually knowing what it was we were trying to talk about and sell. Also, for you, Thomas, in this age, he was focused on reporting with accuracy and detail as well as timeliness. More importantly, what made Jeff so unusual on Wall Street is that he was so genuinely and overtly decent, so kind and thoughtful. And he always had this teasing wit and sense of humor that kept us sane amidst the chaos. What this sense of integrity did was attract a remarkable group of teammates, partners, and friends around Jeff. And many of those colleagues are here today, including Amir and Jung and Brett and Sam and Marcus, all, like Jeff, went on to have fascinating careers. But in those early years, Jeff and I were fortunate to be part of a dot-com boom cycle. We hosted large conferences and research trips around the world, and Jeff would be calling home to Jane from Shanghai or Stockholm, Barcelona, or Silicon Valley. And I have seared in my mind these images of the tall Jeff in the back of planes on overnight flights from Asia, pumping out research notes on our rather crude BlackBerry phones, somewhat balanced at times by a martini in the other hand. Together, we experienced the booms of a high, the lows of a bust, and the trauma of 9/11, walking along the West Side Highway together as the towers fell, Jeff stoic and later determined as we camped in the cramped Sheraton Hotel on 52nd Street while we had no office. At one point, Jeff and I decided that we should depart Lehman Brothers for another firm. So for our exit, together we plotted what we thought was a very cunning plan of a rapid early morning dawn departure from the firm. But in perhaps Jeff's most out-of-character moment, he left the letter declaring our resignation on the main central printer at the heart of the research department the night before. You remember this, Amir? So we were greeted the next morning by a gathering of our most senior managers clutching the resignation letter and persuading us to stay. But this actually led to many more happy years for Jeff and I and our team at Lehman. That was until eventually our firm went bankrupt. After Barclays had acquired Lehman, I later left to work in government in the UK, and Jeff continued, and he led our research group. In 2013, he decided to move to another firm, Nomura, where he broadened his areas of expertise and started writing about the phone companies like AT&T and Verizon, as well as the phone makers such as Apple. Some years later, 2021, Jeff declared to me that he'd written enough reports and that research had somehow lost its luster. But our close friend Tarek had recently been appointed to run the finance department at the large international networking company, HPE. Tarek and Jeff were huge fans of each other, and soon Jeff was running the entire global investor relations group for HPE from his base camp at home on the Upper West Side. Then in early 2024, Jeffrey got perhaps the happiest and the most fulfilling opportunity of his career. In our world of technology, ARM is an iconic company, and its architectures underpin all our mobile phones and most of our data centers. After a successful IPO, their CEO, Renee, and their CFO, Jason, who are both here with us today, were looking for someone to coordinate their new investor relations team. I remember saying to Jeff that since ARM's shares had already tripled from the IPO, it might be hard to predict the near-term outlook, but at least he'd be paired this time with the brightest, but also the nicest and most thoughtful team that we knew in our industry. So Jeff felt massively appreciated and supported at ARM in those last 2 years, and he achieved some remarkable things working alongside his colleagues Ian and Alexis. In March this year, he hosted a pivotal Investor Day and Analyst Day in San Francisco, so that in March, ARM shares were at $140, but by June, they were at $440. Ultimately, in Jeff's uniquely selfless manner, he called several of us to ask our thoughts on his successor. Rather than allowing us to express our deep sadness, Jeff was exclusively focused on somehow a seamless handoff, and he selected our close friend and our colleague of many years, Andrew. So for Thomas and Lily, and for Jane, and family and friends, please know that for all of us here today who came into Jeff's professional orbit, that we all feel so deeply grateful and so fortunate to have been his colleague, and much more importantly, his friend. Thank you.
Before I begin, my family and I would like to thank everyone in this room and joining us online for their presence here today. We are truly touched by your efforts to be here and are comforted by this great physical representation of how loved and admired my father was. For as long as I can remember, people have told me that I am just like my father. It is true that we shared similar mannerisms and interests. We both possessed a strong natural curiosity about the world and delighted in sharing our observations with each other. We bonded over a passion for history and Boston sports, and we're both more sentimental about the simple joys in life than I think either of us would care to admit. Yet, I have always been uncomfortable with these sorts of comparisons. My father has always been the goal, the man I have aspired to become, but not the person that I am today. I struggled to understand how anyone could look at me and see a resemblance to the great man my father was. As you've now heard, one word that has often been used to describe my father's role in our family and to his business school friends is the pillar. Like a pillar, my father steadily and reliably supported everything and everyone around him. Dad was our consistent source of energy, support, and reassurance. A thoughtful listener and sage advisor, he helped us navigate any challenge in his calm and patient manner. Dad always knew when we needed a boost. But what made my dad such a pillar in our lives went beyond the support that he gave us. Just as important was the example he set in the way he lived his own life. And the values my father held most closely, family, hard work, meaningful relationships, and selflessness, may not seem unique in themselves. But what made Dad remarkable was the constancy by which he lived these values and the extraordinary degree to which he embodied them. For example, in addition to his treasured relationships with family and friends, my father had a unique ability and desire to connect with those he encountered throughout his life. One morning, a neighbor in our building casually mentioned in the elevator that he landed at Normandy during D-Day. The following Veterans Day, my father took the time to leave a bottle of champagne and a note by his door, inviting him to our apartment for tea and chat. This desire to actively cultivate the relationships in his life was perhaps most evident when it came to his family. When we were younger, Dad treated each of us to an annual special day when he would take the day off from work and let us choose anything that we wanted to do. Whatever we picked, big or small, he would turn into a full-day adventure together in the city. But Dad also understood the value in simple moments of togetherness. Family dinners were of the utmost importance to him. It was our time to be present with each other, even on nights when nobody had much to say at all. My father also always made an active effort to make the most out of our time we had with our extended family. This included a 10-year process to perfect the Thanksgiving turkey and a detailed spreadsheet which planned a family trip down to 15-minute intervals because he wanted to make sure we took full advantage of our time together. I think the difference between valuing something and truly living it was most apparent in my father's complete and utter selflessness. On the weekends, he wanted to do whatever made us happy, simply enjoying spending time together. As you have heard, when he was first diagnosed with cancer, someone told him that it was time to prioritize himself and do exactly what he wanted to do, whether that was travel the world or learn a new skill. But my dad told all of us that this did not resonate with him. He just wanted to spend his remaining time with us. Until the very end, my father worried about how his illness affected the rest of us before worrying about himself. These past few months have certainly felt like horrible luck for our family. I will admit, sometimes it was hard not to ask what we did to deserve this. But when I reflect, truly, all I can think about is how lucky I am to have a father who patiently taught me to throw a baseball or grow tomatoes on our terrace, who moved heaven and earth to make every birthday party, recital, and sports game, who constantly, quietly, and selflessly put others before himself, even as he began to decline from his disease. He shaped all of our lives and will continue to do so in an innumerable number of positive ways. Dad. I am a young man. I have a lifetime of joy, heartbreak, struggle, and triumph ahead of me. But one day, when I myself am old and gray, I hope to be sitting by my lonesome, enjoying a sunset like you always did. It is my life goal and truly my greatest hope that in that moment I will be able to have the privilege to look back on my life and say that I was half the man that he was. I love you, Dad.
On the death of the beloved. Though we need to weep your loss, you dwell in that safe place in our hearts where no storm or night or pain can reach you. Your love was like the dawn, brightening over our lives, awakening beneath the dark, a further adventure of color. Whatever you unfolded in your gaze, quickened in the joy of its being. You placed smiles like flowers on the altar of the heart. Your mind always sparkled with wonder at things. Though your days here were brief, your spirit was alive, awake, complete. We looked toward each other, no longer from the old distance of our names. Now you dwell inside the rhythm of breath, as close to us as we are to ourselves. Though we cannot see you with outward eyes, we know our soul's gaze is upon your face, smiling back at us from within everything to which we bring our best refinement. Let us not look for you only in memory, where we would grow lonely without you. You would want us to find you in presence, beside us when beauty brightens, when kindness glows, and music echoes eternal tones. May you continue to inspire us, to enter each day with a generous heart, to serve the call of courage and love, until we see your beautiful face again, in that land where there is no more separation, where all tears will be wiped from our mind, and where we will never lose you again.
Please rise as you are willing and able to join in singing hymn number 205, Amazing Grace. It's in the hymnal in front of you. Please be seated. Jeff's family hopes you will join them after the service just across Lexington Avenue at Astor House. They will greet you there. Once in a while, if we are really lucky, someone lives among us for a time who demonstrates the excellence of character that human beings can achieve. Jeff was one such person, a man of steadfast loyalty, unstinting enthusiasm, and abiding love. He set a standard by which we can measure both the quality and the integrity of our own lives, our commitments, our aspirations, and our achievements. We are fortunate to have shared our lives and our world with Jeff, whom you loved so well. And so there is little left to say and do here. The pains of parting are hard, but the responsibilities of living lure us on. Life must be served. It is served through birth and death, and all that lies between, love and laughter, work and play, accomplishment and disappointment. Here, as we acknowledge death, we continue to sing the song of life that Jeff sang so beautifully for us. We raise our eyes from the valley of the shadow to the sunlit heights. We go from here, strengthened for the ascent, better able to bear our own burdens and to lighten the load of others. Therefore, we leave our dead in peace. With respect, we bid Jeff farewell. In love, let us remember him as our companion along the way. And thus, thinking of him, let us go in quietness of spirit and live in peace and in understanding with one another. I'll remind you of a few words from John O'Donohue that Lily read to us. May you continue to inspire us to enter each day with a generous heart, to serve the call of courage and love. This is the day we are given. Let us rejoice and be glad in it.